Hi, everyone. This is Tracy Mansour, marketing for Randstad SourceRight, and we are very pleased to bring our latest Talent Trailblazer TV episode to you today. And our special guest today is Rhiana Barr, and she's with us from Cetera Financial. And I'm really excited that you are here. You obviously are head of your HR business partner and TA organization, Rhiana, and we just want to thank you for joining us today and for sharing your expertise with our broader global community. And we just would like to start today by you perhaps telling us a little bit about your background and role at Cetera and a little bit about your organization.
Well, thank you, Tracy. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you today. I'm an HR professional. I've had the opportunity to work in a variety of industries over the last 15 years and growing. Cetera is a financial services organization, and so we really serve the advisor community. And we have 1,600 employees and growing, and we serve an advisor base of 8,000 and growing.
So I know you guys have been particularly busy at Cetera. You've recently supported a major organizational change, and it's likely something that a lot of your peers in the broader HR community are facing as well. So we certainly want to hear more about this acquisition and some of the unique challenges you faced when it came to staffing and to support this business initiative. So will you tell us a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to. I think change management is really a key component in every organization. The landscape is dynamic and changing so quickly, and so it's really a great opportunity to have had the pleasure to lead such a fun acquisition for Cetera. I'm really fortunate that Cetera Financial Group is really an expert in navigating change, and it's something that we really embrace from a cultural perspective to engage our employees on how to better go to market and serve our advisor community. And it brings out the best in our people. And so when we had the opportunity to announce this acquisition, one thing that we noticed is that we had employees across the organization jumping in, ready, willing, and able to help. And, this was really special because it was the largest acquisition that we've seen in the firm's history. It was incredibly complex from a human capital perspective. And so we made the decision to break it into 3 work streams, just so that we could essentially resource against those work streams. And so first was really setting up the process and system for the new employees coming into Cetera. So it's 250 new employees across 40 states, many in which we don't operate in. And so how can we make their experience joining our firm so great? So that was the first work stream that we created. The second was really around how do we have our process, systems, and technology up and ready to go on day one, not only for our employee base, but also for our advisor community. And so we did that through temps. And so we went to market for 50 contingent workers based out of our St. Cloud, Minnesota location to ensure that we could really transition on day one seamlessly. And then the second vertical, which is where we engaged with you heavily, was really across the go-to-market. And so we identified from a shared service perspective that we would need approximately 60 employees. And what made this really unique is 60 very different types of professionals, 7 weeks, multi-state. And so by chunking it up into the work streams, that's how we made it digestible for the collective organization and for everybody involved.
And I know that we often see HR leaders, Rhiana, know that they want to solve for particular talent challenges, but sometimes they don't necessarily have the buy-in that they need from their leadership to move forward. And I know you worked very earnestly to really build the business case, to tell your C-suite leaders to make sure they were engaged in the process that you just quickly described. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and how you've helped to build that business case that was going to help you do what you needed to do?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So again, I go back to I'm in a really great opportunity that Cetera really does embrace change and doesn't fear it. And it's very much part of our strategic growth roadmap. And we work very collaboratively across all of our different broker dealers, divisions, and shared services. And so what I found to be really helpful is really understanding from a diligence perspective what this acquisition was all about. Where would they best fit into our portfolio? And then how can we essentially solve from a human capital perspective? And again, the more that we dug into it, we realized, okay, this is a bit complex. So how can we take a step back and really rally very quickly to build a playbook that works for this type of a deal? It's not something that we had seen before. And same with, the incoming team on the opposite side of the house. And so really, I built a business case to show, okay, speed to execution on this is going to be critical. And with such a short time window, which was less than half of the time that we had hoped for, so 7 weeks to get everybody transferred in, what do we need to do? We need to get to market. We need to serve our advisors. We want a positive experience for, our incoming new colleagues. I built 2 different business cases with very clear return on investment. So option 1 was I need to go really fast. And, with that, it's going to cost a little more money, Mr. CFO, but that will really enable us to support the business coming out of the gate on day 1. And so we built an optimal design to get that done. So, 50 temps in 5 weeks, 60 net new employees in 7 weeks, and onboarding 250 employees. Option 2 was we can take this a little slower. We won't hit those essentially time windows of onboarding, collective organization ready day 1 within the 7-week window. And we can kind of slow down the team that we need to put together with Randstad. And it was so very clear that the impact that it would have to the business would be detrimental with being able to onboard our new advisors and employees, that we then very quickly partnered to move forward with, option 1, which is, best case scenario to support the organization. So my philosophy, build options with very clear pros and cons and what the impact is to the business.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you framed it, that the speed to business, as I would call it, was so critical to the success of this integration that became such an important priority. And it sounds like your senior leadership absolutely understood how important that was to the process. So kudos to you for building a business case that certainly demonstrated the impact you wanted to achieve. So we know that there's a real wow factor when you're able to fill those roles in such a short time frame. You just took us through that. But you knew you were on track to get it done. So can you tell us how you leveraged metrics and reporting and how that contributed to the success of your hiring project, and then ultimately how that fit into your broader communication with leadership?
Yeah, so one thing that we did, and a guiding principle here at Cetera, is really, communicate frequently, and really focus on the what, the why, and the how. And so we did daily meetings with our acquisition leaders, and then the other HR teams supporting our verticals in addition to our Randstad team. So an extension of us. We designed a series of daily reporting key performance indicators, and we reported on them every single night out to the leadership team on this project. And I think the partnership and the communication within Cetera and Randstad was key. So we talked every day, multiple times a day, just so that we could understand what was happening, where are we running into barriers, where can we quickly execute, and to make sure that we're removing the roadblocks for our respective teams. We implemented 24-hour issue resolution to really help drive success. We had 0 timeline fluff in this project, Tracy. We had to go. And so really defining a clear escalation path between Cetera and our Randstad partner, remove the barriers, empower our team, trust them to do the best work of their lives, and speed to execution. So develop that scorecard. We color coded it from a stoplight perspective, what's going to ensure our success, and make sure that you're talking constantly and be prepared to pivot on a dime.
Yeah, and I started hearing the terms hypercare internally. And I said, that at the pace at which you were moving and reporting back to senior leadership, it's a perfect phrase to describe how focused and hyper-focused you were on delivering results and reporting back on that. So loved that term, and certainly aptly named for what work you and your team did in this process. So what would be your best advice for talent leaders who are facing organizational changes? And in this case, like a merger and acquisition, certainly a mode that you're now familiar with, what would it be that you would say to others who are maybe facing that M&A activity?
I think no surprises. So it doesn't matter, good, bad, unsure, talk about it. Solution together as a team, I think, is really critical for success. So don't, hold back and say, I'm going to try the solution on my own. Filter it up as quickly as you possibly can. Play an active role in the diligence process. The more that you understand the nuances of, that merger or acquisition, the better that you can solution and prepare your team to solution for, what you need to do from a human capital perspective. I think playbooks are great. We all have them. Take it out, dust it off, add to it, see what else is happening from kind of a market perspective. We have such a great HR community and so many wonderful people willing to help with that, just to make sure, again, that you are prepared, for what's coming down the pipeline. We found it critical to develop KPIs, socialize them with the team, and again, report out daily. That was so critical to our success. I think it's important. I have a lot of things, Tracy. I think it's also important, really from an employee perspective. Sometimes we get into these zones of, we want the deal to happen and bring everyone together. Sometimes I found, that we don't talk or bring our employee base along with us. And so I think frequent, often communication, what, why, how, and status updates from an internal perspective will keep your internal team really engaged at a time of uncertainty. And then pulse, onboarding surveys, things of that nature that you can do with the folks that have just joined the organization. What did we do well? What can we do better next time? Help us understand what your experience was like. We were blown away with the 250 people that joined us. We had an experience NPS of 29.9%. Blew our mind. But also, which is super awesome. But also within that, there were definite, areas that we can improve. And so we've taken that feedback, we've incorporated it for the next deal that's coming down the pipeline. And then last but not least, I think communicate the wins, talk about, what you can do better going forward, and refine. So I think communication is absolutely key.
Yeah, I don't think you could ever underestimate that. I loved what you described, Rhiana, where you were taking your team along with you. So every step along the way, they understood what you were working on, what was expected of them, and how integral this was to the company's success. And the fact that if there was any issue, you were, communicating and getting, problem solving done among that broader group, it sounds like, and virtually everything, which I think is, again, very critical to the success of this particular launch. So,
I think it's all hands on deck. It's solution together with the team, especially when you're running that fast, is, empower, trust, and solution together.
Excellent. What a great testimony, Rhiana, and congratulations to you and your team. And we look forward to hearing more. And if there's more stories to come here soon, we'll look forward to sharing that with our viewership and communities. But thank you so much, Rhiana. It's been a terrific pleasure being with you today.
Thank you, Tracy. My absolute pleasure.